Hi, I'm Quinma, and to preface this video, I am a big fan of turn-based RPGs. But I'd never even heard of the Breath of Fire series until recently. It looked like a lot of fun, so I knew I had to at least try the first game in the series. Breath of Fire was originally released on the SNES, or Super Famicom, in Japan on April 3rd, 1993. It was later released in North America on August 10th, 1994. It has since been re-released on several different platforms. The version I'm playing is the Virtual Console version on the Wii U. As one would expect of a game this old and of this genre, it takes place in a medieval fantasy setting. It's stereotypical now, sure, but there are times when I crave those classic tales. And now I'm reviewing another one of them! Oh, and just so you know, at least according to my research, the canon name for the main character is Ryu, so I will be referring to him as Ryu throughout this review. However, even though I know it's pronounced Ryu, like most Westerners, the name is difficult to pronounce, so I may accidentally refer to him as Ryu. I apologize for that in advance. Now then, if you wish to skip the story recap and story review, then you can skip to the time on screen. The story starts in a state of emergency, as the small village of Drogan is on fire. Ryu is awakened by an old woman to get him out to safety. The two join the rest of the villagers in the main building, the one building that is safe from the fire. The villagers are panicking due to the whole village being in flames. However, they still have faith in a villager named Sarah. When Sarah enters, it's revealed that the Dark Dragon clan is the one attacking. Seems that the Dark Dragon family is attacking all the other dragon families because their king, Zog, is aiming to conquer the world. Not knowing that those of the Light Dragon clan no longer have any power, the Dark Dragons decided to attack the Light Dragons first. Despite no longer having any powers though, the villagers still have the bravery of the Light Dragons and want to fight back against the Dark Dragons attacking their village. However, Sarah disagrees with the rest of her clan. She believes they are too weak to take on the attacking army and decides to take on the attackers alone. When the villagers insist on fighting, Sarah turns them to stone, her reasoning being that if they're stone, then they will not be able to get hurt. Before leaving, Sarah addresses Ryu's statue, stating that when he's a warrior, he'll bring peace to the world. With that, Sarah leaves to fight. She is surrounded almost immediately, but she's able to frighten the soldiers away with her powerful magic. Sarah turns her attention to the leader of the attack, Jade, and shoots her lightning at him. During the confrontation, Jade reveals that the Dark Dragons have the 6 goddess keys. Sarah asks what the Dark Dragons will do with the goddess tier, but Jade refuses to answer. The battle is intense. However, Jade comes out on top. We then learn the history of this world, which has turned into nothing but myth in present day. When the unified dragon family was at the peak of their power, the goddess Tyr appeared to grant their wishes. But of course, the dragons fought amongst themselves to claim Tyr's power. Despite the destruction, Tyr encouraged it. But one day, a legendary warrior appeared. That warrior fought Tyr alongside his 7 companions and locked the destructive goddess with the 6 goddess keys. To protect the world, the goddess keys were scattered and hidden. By the time the stone spell wears off, the fire has gone out and Sarah has gone missing. Seeing that Sarah is gone, the other light dragons want to go fight for her. However, the old woman convinces everyone that they shouldn't leave the village. However, the chief recognizes that Ryu won't be swayed so easily, so he and the old woman decide to support Ryu as he goes to search for Sarah and fight against the Dark Dragon clan. The chief tells Ryu that Zog's empire is across the ocean in Scand, and that'll be a long journey to get there. On his journey, Ryu finds himself in the nearby Camlin. The town has been destroyed and monsters have taken over the castle. Ryu goes to stop the monsters. He fights the lead frog that's commanding the monsters. The battle against the frog was surprisingly tough, but Ryu was able to keep his health up and defeat it. Once the frog is no more, the dark air around Camlin disappears, as does all the monsters. The king of Camlin expresses his thanks for freeing them of the monsters. However, their conversation is cut short as an earthquake hits. The townsfolk conclude that the Dark Dragon clan has a device called the Quake Control. The Quake Control can create earthquakes anywhere in the world whenever the holder uses it. Ryu is told that there is a hidden dungeon in Nanai, and that's where he'll most likely find the Quake Control. With that, Ryu heads off to locate the Quake Control. In the dead of night, Ryu arrives in Nanai. He sneaks past all of the dark dragon guards to make his way into the dungeon. Surprisingly, Ryu finds the dungeon is full of lava despite being in the middle of a normal town. Nevertheless, Ryu travels down into the depths of the dungeon to find the quake control. When Ryu reaches the bottom floor, he sees a knight with the quake control. When Ryu approaches the knight, he tries to get the protagonist to back off by saying that with the quake control, he will take over the world, assumingly superseding Zog. Not wanting to be stopped, the knight attacks. Similar to the frog, the knight hits significantly harder than Ryu, and Ryu needs to outlast the knight, and of course, our hero succeeds in doing so. After defeating the knight, Ryu takes the goddess key from the quake control, destroying it. But removing the key didn't just destroy the quake control, but also the entire town of Nanai. The city falls in one final discharge from the quake control. After leaving the now destroyed town, Ryu is greeted by one of the members of Camlin's court. The individual escorts Ryu back to Camlin to speak with their king. The king of Camlin recognizes that Ryu made a tough choice about whether to let the quake control destroy the town of Nanai to defeat the dark dragons occupying it, or to leave things as they are. Since Ryu chose to destroy the quake control in Nanai, the king sees him as a true hero. One of the other members of the king's court instructs Ryu to travel to Winland. He explains that in Winland, Ryu will find a cave to another kingdom. With that information, Ryu makes his trek to Winland. Eventually, Ryu arrives in the lively town. Here, he learns that he won't be able to go through the tunnel without the king's permission. Thus, Ryu goes to the castle to obtain that permission. However, when he asks for an audience with the king, he is told the king is unavailable. Ryu is escorted to the guest room to rest for the night to await the king's availability. However, it turns out that the king of Winland is very sick and bedridden due to being poisoned. Princess Nina is determined to get the remedy to cure her father. The attendant, knowing she wouldn't be able to stop the princess, wishes her luck and provides an opportunity for the winged women to sneak out of the kingdom. Well, I say sneak out, but Nina can speak with literally everyone on her way out. When Nina enters the tunnel, she is greeted by Soldier 1 and Soldier 2. The two soldiers also know they won't be able to stop the princess, so they agree to let her through on the condition that they travel with her. After traveling through the tunnel, the group arrives in the town of Romero. Here, they learn that thanks to a potion from the wizard, there are people coming back to life. However, these people aren't dangerous zombies. They're just like regular people, except that their bodies are weaker, likely due to decomposition, and they have to sleep in the day and are active at night. Nina's group also learns that several women have gone missing after the wizard started using that potion. It doesn't take much to put two and two together. Nina needs the remedy anyway, so her group continue forward to face the wizard and locate the missing ladies. The wizard's tower is very, very tall. The halls are lined with monsters. When reaching the first stairway, the guard, Mort, tells them that nobody is home. Not believing him in the slightest, a battle ensues. Mort hits hard, but by working together, Nina's team prevails. After defeating the guard, Nina proceeds through the tower. Eventually, they come across another roadblock, Morty. Morty states that their brother was guarding the front gate. Recognizing that something must have happened to Mort, Morty attacks. While Morty is stronger than Mort, the younger gatekeeper goes down too. Nina is able to climb even higher. At the top of the tower, Nina's team finds the missing women. The ladies have been kidnapped by the wizard to be used as guinea pigs in his experiments. Nina uses the castle's mechanisms to create a bridge, allowing the women to escape. Meanwhile, Nina goes in deeper. She reaches the basement of the tower. She is positive that the remedy is somewhere in that room. Before anyone can check though, the wizard ambushes them. The wizard releases Xeon gas. The gas is poisonous to these winged warriors, stripping them of all power. All they can do is run. Even so, Nina volunteers to be a distraction, ordering her soldiers to get help. The soldiers are uncomfortable with leaving their princess behind. Ultimately, Soldier 2 stays to help Nina, while Soldier 1 leaves to return to Winland and get help. The wizard succeeds in defeating Nina and Soldier 2, capturing them both. Meanwhile, Soldier 1 fled to the roof. The wizard states that Soldier 1 won't be able to escape, but Soldier 1 uses his powers to transform into a bird and flee. Nonetheless, the wizard sends dragons after him. Soldier 1 arrives in Winland. He tells the castle guards what happened, that Princess Nina was captured and the wizard was using Xeon gas to stop them. As it is poisonous to all of their kingdom's people, they decide to ask Ryu because as a human, Ryu would be immune. After this is decided, Soldier 1 dies from his injuries. When Ryu wakes up, he is informed of what happened and is asked to help. Of course, he agrees to it. He goes out to meet with the rescue party. When Ryu gets there, the leader explains that he'll get Ryu to the tower while the remaining 6 will keep the minions busy. With that, the lead turns into a bird, allowing Ryu to ride him. 3 of the remaining soldiers also turn into birds, with the final 3 riding on their backs. With that, they take to the skies to rescue Nina. When the soldier and Ryu arrive in the tower, the soldier takes Ryu as far as he can go. However, he cannot make it all the way due to the xenon gas, so Ryu needs to face the wizard alone. When Ryu reaches the wizard recognizes that Ryu is from a dragon clan. Since the xenon gas won't work on him, the wizard attacks. However, as Ryu is not affected by the gas, he is able to take down the wizard very easily. After the wizard's demise, Ryu collects the remedy to heal the king and frees the princess. With that behind them, the soldier from before flies Ryu and Nina back to Winland. In Winland, they give the king the remedy and he is able to recover. With her father back in shape, Nina requests to travel with Ryu. The king accepts, and so Nina officially joins the party. Ryu and Nina then leave Winland to continue on their way to defeat the Dark Dragons. As they travel, they do notice a large robot, but it is not functional, so they continue on their way. They end up in Tuntar. The river that's supposed to run through Tuntar has completely dried up. Here they learn about someone named Bo, who is able to move freely through the woods. There is also a man who believes he saw the chief of Tuntar near the Forest of Despair, but the chief is still present in the village. When they go to speak with the chief states he doesn't want to get involved with the stone robot. He further believes that Tantar should give up their treasured ring in order to solve the river problem. To investigate, Ryu and Nina make their way to Tantar. They learn that Tantar is largely inhabited by the Forest Clan. They learn that the river that also runs through Tantar was blocked by the Dark Dragons. Furthermore, this ring gives the Forest Clan their power, and while the leader doesn't want to give it up, he is conflicted due to how it is affecting not just Tantar but Tuntar too. Ryu and Nina also meet with Terry, who informs them that the Forest of Despair is being occupied by the Dark Dragons. Piecing together this new information with the chief of Tuntar's uncharacteristic behavior and how he was witnessed near the Forest of Despair, Ryu and Nina decide to investigate the forest. This forest, though, is blocked off by a large tree that had fell, but once they have a saw, then they can cut their way through. The Forest of Despair is full of dangerous monsters, but the duo is able to make their way deep into these woods and find an out-of-place structure. Inside, they find that there are several guards protecting the building. Of course, Ryu and Nina are able to get through all of them. At the back of the building, they learn that the chief of Tuntar is being held captive here. The 3 guards attack, but once again, Ryu and Nina successfully defeat them. After freeing the chief, he suggests they take the Dark Dragon's weapons before leaving. Ryu and Nina agree and follow the chief. However, it was a trap. The creature known as Pog attacks. Pog was a formidable foe, but the heroes slay it nonetheless. The one who trapped them is outraged at Pog's demise, but before he can do anything, an arrow comes flying in, freeing Ryu and Nina. The arrow belongs to the Forest Clan member the duo learned of in Tuntar, Bo. Bo explains that while Ryu and Nina kept this imposter busy, Bo was able to sneak in through the back and rescue the real chief. The general reveals his true self and attacks these heroes. While the general is able to take hits rather well, with Bo's help, the heroes come out victorious. After defeat, the general taunts that even though he was defeated, the river is still blocked off. The general then flees. The real chief of Tuntar expresses that they should find a way to remove the rock blocking the river instead of handing over Tantar's treasure. Bo addresses the hero, stating that Zog is also his enemy and thus wants to join the quest to defeat him. Bo thus joins the party. The group then return to Tuntar. The chief tells them that they can use the robot to move the boulder and they can find the secret to activating said robot in Agua. Agua is north of Romero, so the party backtracks to the west to make it to Agua. However, they are stopped in Romero. It turns out that since the heroes were here last, the people who were brought back to life have become proper zombies. While they are not a direct threat yet, they have eaten all the livestock, and the villagers believe that they are next. The old woman who lives in the village does not care about that, because she is able to be with her husband once again. However, with the last of his mental capacity, he tells the heroes how to solve the zombie problem. There's a cave in the west that has cleansing water. By pouring the cleansing water on the soil, the zombies will be no more. The old woman is understandably not happy about losing her husband a second time, but decides to respect his final wish. She allows the heroes to retrieve a water jar. Feeling Agua can wait, the heroes leave to get the cleansing water. Thanks to Bo, so, they are able to make it through the dense forest to the western cave. Said cave isn't very large, so it doesn't take a lot of time to reach the cleansing water. When they reach it, they rush back to Romero. Rue pours the water on the soil, and the zombies are indeed no more. As thanks, the chief of Romero provides the heroes with a tablet that'll allow them entrance into Agua. The floating tower of Agua allows the heroes entrance when the tablet is used. They traverse through the maze to find the Wisp, the guardian of the key. While they enter a tedious battle, by defeating the Wisp, the heroes prove themselves worthy to hold the second goddess key. With key now in hand, the heroes make their way back to the stone robot. At the robot's heart, the heroes find the general once more. The general declares that he is in control of the robot, yet he doesn't have the key to use it, so he attacks. The general is even easier to beat than the first time, so the heroes are able to make him flee much sooner. Using the key on the robot's heart turns on the mechanisms inside. Traversing through, Rue and the others find the robot's control. At Nina's command, the robot travels to the lake and uses a laser beam to destroy the boulder. The river then fills with water once more. With that settled, the heroes return to Tantar and Tantar. The chief of Tantar insists that Rue use their treasured ring and provides some instructions on where it was hidden. The chief says that they will make preparations for a wedding between Tantar's Amelia and Tantar's Terry while Rue is away. With that, the heroes head off to the cave where the ring is. The cave may be full of water, but it isn't large at all. Rue is able to find the ring very quickly and puts it on his person. When the group return to Tantar, they are invited to celebrate the wedding. However, during the proceedings, the general took control of the stone robot. It uses the robot's power to destroy Tantar. His next target is Tantar. However, the robot is refusing to move. The heroes use this opportunity to re-enter the robot and retake it. They find the general again, now at the control. The general notices that Rue has the ring. As that was the Dark Dragon's original target, he decides not to hold back. The general reveals his true form as a gremlin. General Gremlin hits hard and proves a real challenge. Ultimately, though, the heroes defeat him for good. Now that the stone robot is free from the general's control, it starts to move by its own will. The robot lets the heroes out near the volcano south of the former village of Tantar, likely to prevent the Dark Dragons from taking control of it again, and also to help Rue's group. The robot takes its own life by entering the volcano. The lava overflows into the part of the river that's still dry. The lava hardens surprisingly quickly, meaning the heroes are now able to travel south. Before the robot perished, it tells the heroes goodbye. While it is a somber farewell, the heroes cannot stay here and continue onwards. Shortly after crossing into the south, the heroes meet a grove of fairies who question if they're also here to chop down their trees. Naturally, Rue and the others leave, as there's nothing there for them. The heroes then find themselves at a dragon temple. The keeper of the temple tells Rue that he needs training. Rue enters into a battle with Talon the dragon to train. Their training session is very long, but Rue is able to eventually defeat Talon. With his training arc complete, Rue obtains the power to transform into a dragon. After some more traveling, the heroes find themselves in the city of Aria, and they are immediately imprisoned. The guards state that they will not allow anyone to steal their treasure, leaving the heroes in jail. However, a sleeping prisoner easily gets the heroes out. Lazily, the prisoner returns to his sleep while Rue and the others escape. The heroes need to sneak around the city or risk being thrown back in prison. The heroes try to get a ship so that they can cross the seas to where the Dark Dragons lay, but they are told that the ship belongs to a man named Ross. They go to meet Ross, and the man agrees to let the heroes use his ship if they can rescue his daughter from the family safe. As they explore Auria, trying to find a way to save Ross's daughter, the heroes learn of a city of thieves called Bleak. Perhaps a thief, a master of unlocking, could get the girl out. Before they leave to investigate Bleak, though, they learn that a woman's son has gotten lost in the forest. Recalling the Grove of Fairies, the heroes decide to return to the grove and find the woman's son. As it turns out, the boy was cursed by fairies due to chopping trees in their forest. After speaking with the fairies, Rue is able to convince them to let the boys go. With the curse broken, the boy returns to Auria. With that settled, Rue's group moves toward Bleak. Bleak is indeed full of thieves. When Rue speaks to the townsfolk, they'll steal money from the heroes during the conversation. Despite this, Rue and the others head off to the Thieves Guild. Speaking with the head of the Thieves Guild, they learn about a man named Karn. Karn would be able to help them, but he's in Crypt right now. The head of the guild offers Rue's group an icicle to travel through the desert to Crypt in exchange for a gold bar. With little choice, Rue agrees to the trade. Now with icicle in hand, Rue's group crosses the desert. When they reach Crypt, they find that it is surrounded by sandpits, preventing them from entering. Rue's group travel through the desert to find a solution and ends up in the desert town of Arad. The chief of Arad has a fief that'll create a bridge to cross into Crypt. The chief agrees to give it to the heroes if they can get rid of the sandworm that's eating their livestock. In the dead of night, the heroes confront the monster. Despite its intimidating form, Rue, Nina, and Bo are easily able to defeat it. The chief upholds his promise and gives the heroes the fief. The heroes are now able to enter Crypt. They explore the dungeon to try and find the thief Karn. Along the way, they open the treasure chest they come across. However, one of these treasure chests activates a very dangerous trap. The room they're in begins to fill with water. Nina starts to panic, but thankfully they are rescued by the same lazy thief from Aurea. Turns out that this thief is Karn. The heroes explain the situation with Ross's daughter and are able to convince Karn to help out. Thus, Karn joins the party. The group returns to Aurea. Karn uses his skills to rescue Ross's daughter. She explains that her father has the light key and wants to give it to the dark dragons to ensure her safety. She laments that her mother would have been able to convince him that this is a bad idea. Rue's group decides to return to Bleak to scale the tower where the dark key lays. A man in the tower tells the group that if they can defeat the ghost protecting the dark key, then he'll give them a treasure. As Rue and the others are going after the key anyway, they continue their way up. At the top, the ghostly dragon known as Cloud comments that long ago, only dragons could enter the tower. Cloud then attacks. With a strong strategy though, the group of four take down the ghost. Cloud recognizes the strength of the heroes and gives them the dark key. He urges them to retrieve the light key next. Descending the tower, they return to the old man from before. The man gives them a special mirror that allows them to communicate with those in the spirit world. Realizing they can use this to allow Ross to talk to his late wife, the heroes return to Aurea. When Ross looks into the mirror, he is indeed able to talk to his wife Elena. Elena is able to convince Ross to not give the dark dragons the light key. Afterwards, in order to protect the key from the dark dragons, Ross's daughter gives it to Rue. Furthermore, Ross permits them to use his ship. However, when the heroes reach the ship, they see that the dark dragons are attacking it in retaliation to Ross's betrayal. While Rue and the others are able to defeat these dark dragons, the villains succeed in sinking the ship. The ship captain notes that the dark dragons have a ship of their own, and if the heroes go through the North Cave, they'll be able to ambush the dark dragons. A shopkeeper named Gobi offers to give the heroes gunpowder in exchange for a gold bar so that they can blast their way through the North Cave. Begrudgingly, Rue gets a gold bar for Gobi. With the explosives in hand, the heroes return to the North Cave. They use the gunpowder to blow up the rocks blocking the way. It then doesn't take long to find the dark dragon's ship. The heroes bravely board and take on the dark dragons by surprise. Deeper in the ship, after being found out, the heroes are confronted by the captain of the ship, Squid. Squid was a tricky opponent, but ultimately nothing Rue and the others couldn't handle. Squid's final words are that his brother will seek vengeance against the heroes. Now that the ship is theirs, Rue and the others return to report to the ship captain in Aurea. The captain takes to the new ship. Ross and his daughter see the heroes off. However, before they can leave, Gobi catches up. He states that he needs to get to the city of Prima and that it's on the way to the hero's destination. With no reason to argue, Gobi is allowed to board. When they are sailing the seas, the dark dragons appear. Their ships are being led by Squid's brother, Octo. Gobi insists on escaping or using the gunpowder in the lower deck to blow the dark dragons away. However, they are out at sea, so escaping is not an option. Furthermore, as Nina points out, setting off those explosives will cause the ship to sink with everyone still on board. Nevertheless, Gobi is very insistent and drags the party around the ship away from the dark dragons. The group is eventually cornered by Octo in the room with the explosives. Octo attacks. While Octo took hits better than his brother, he was also far less of a threat. But perhaps from the intense battle, the explosives go off. Everyone scrambles to escape the ship. When everything is said and done, it appears that only the heroes and Gobi made it. Gobi then uses some sort of magic to whip up a whirlpool, dragging the heroes in. Turns out that it was to get everyone safely to a small island. Gobi apologizes that he didn't think the explosion would be so big. He further explains that Prima is nearby but underwater. Without an item known as the gills, non-fish people wouldn't be able to travel there. Gobi offers them the gills for a ridiculous amount of money, and Rue obviously can't afford it, especially after getting Gobi that gold bar. So instead, Gobi takes everything Rue owns, money and items, as his payment for getting them gills. With that, Gobi heads off to Prima to obtain the gills from the guildmaster. He learns that they actually don't have any gills right now though. The guildmaster tells Gobi that he'll have to go to the town of Gant in order to get the goods needed to make them. Surprisingly, Gobi decides to keep his end of the bargain to Rue and travels to Gant. Gant though is oddly quiet. There is absolutely no one in the town. and it turns out that all the civilians were taken by the dark dragons and are being forced to make a secret ultimate weapon. The town leader provides Gobi the goods to create the gills in hopes that will help in rescuing his people. Gobi returns to Prima and trades in the goods to the guildmaster, receiving the gills in return. However, before he can return to Rue, a large noise rings throughout Prima. Turns out that the dark dragons attacked a boat on the surface. Gobi goes with the guildmaster to see the survivor of the attack. At the end, they see that a ghost has appeared to finish off the survivor. The guildmaster states that the survivor has important information, so they cannot allow this ghost to take him. Gobi states he knows a warrior who could help, but he'll only fetch the heroes for a huge price. The guildmaster offers half the amount, and Gobi reluctantly agrees. With that, Gobi heads off. Gobi returns to the heroes, handing back their money, items, and the gills. The reason Gobi returned the items and money is because he is now joining the party. Gobi informs them of the situation in Prima, so the heroes head to the water to protect the survivor. Rue and the others quickly make their way to the inn and jump in to fight the ghost of Morteo. Despite the grim situation, Rue's group is easily able to defeat it. Afterwards, the survivor regains consciousness. He is called Ox, and he was attacked because of his intel that he needed to give to the guildmaster. Ox explains that the metalsmiths aren't the only ones the dark dragons took from Gant. They also took their families to ensure that the metalsmiths will create their secret weapon. Of course, the heroes offer to help without hesitation. Gobi offers to join the fight as well, believing he may be able to get his shop license back if they succeed. Naturally, Ox joins the party as well to save his people. Now with more heroes by their side, the party heads off to the fortress where the Gant civilians are being held. Naturally, the fortress is well guarded by the dark dragons. After some maneuvering, Rue and the others are able to make it to where the people of Gant are being held. However, they are intercepted by a general, taunting how Ox returned to the prison. General Toad attacks. While he is very spongy, the heroes are able to wear him down and come out victorious. With Toad no more, the heroes freed the Gant civilians. Ultimately, though, they were too late. The Dark Dragon's secret weapon has been completed, and they are still holding the women hostage. Rue is informed that the prisoners are in Nabal. The heroes learn of a deserter from the Dark Dragon's army who may be able to get them in. When speaking with the former enemy and showing him Rue's powerful boomerang, he suggests using an egg to get into the castle. As odd as the advice is, when the heroes are on their way to Nabal, they take the egg of a Grimfowl. Understandably, the wild Grimfowl attack to protect their egg. The heroes are able to take out the wildlife rather easily. With egg in hand, Rue and the others flee the Grimfowl, who chase them out of the woods. Rue tosses the egg towards Nabal Castle, causing the Grimfowl to go on the offensive. These large birds attack the guards, unintentionally on the Grimfowl's part, creating a distraction to allow Rue and the others to sneak in. After making their way through the largely unguarded castle, Rue's group makes it to the dungeon. They come face to face with the general. However, the general does not see Rue and the others as a priority, leaving his subordinates to fight. As ordered, the Slime X attacks. Even when the three of them are combined into one, the heroes are able to defeat them. With their dying words, the minions reveal that the general has left to attack Prima. After freeing the women of Gant, the heroes rushed after the general. They are too late though, as they arrive just as the Dark Dragon's ship sets sail. The Dark Dragons plan to use a torpedo to destroy the underwater city. Gobi suggests they visit the guildmaster. After Ox says his goodbyes to his wife and unborn child, the heroes head off to Prima. The guildmaster tells them that the only way to destroy the torpedo is to seek the help of Wisden's sorceress. Rue retrieves the statue that allows the heroes to enter Wisden. Returning to the desert, due to the presence of the statue, Rue and the others are able to enter the moving town. Wandering around the town, Rue's group eventually find the sorceress's room. She is being guarded by three ghosts who want to test if the heroes are worthy enough to awaken the sorceress. Naturally, one after the other, each of the ghosts fall to the heroes. Recognizing Rue and the others, the ghosts wake Blue the sorceress. Rue explains the situation and Blue gives him an old egg. She instructs the heroes to place the old egg in the volcano and then return to her. With no way to argue, Rue once again has possession of an egg. He drops it into the volcano as instructed before returning to the sorceress. Once he's reported in, Blue joins the party to protect Prima from the Dark Dragons. When the Dark Dragons make their move on Prima, Rue's group supports the defense. When one of the fish people take the heroes to the surface, they find that they are surrounded by Dark Dragon ships. However, the old egg from Blue hatched into a typhoon bug. That typhoon bug takes out a good number of the enemy ships. The attack from the typhoon bug drives the remaining Dark Dragons underwater. Rue's group dives in after them. The heroes and the fish people engage with the Dark Dragons. The heroes heroes taking on General Pincher. Surprisingly though, even though General Pincher sounds dangerous, he was very easy for the heroes to defeat. Meanwhile, Emperor Zog is speaking with Commander Jade about how the Dark Dragons keep losing. Of course, before receiving any sort of answer, Zog sends the commander off. Jade communicates with other high-ranking Dark Dragons, some of which aren't native to the clan. These are Cyril, Goda, Court, and Moat. These four believe that tracking down and defeating the Light Dragons is beneath Jade, but the latter is not concerned. Jade orders Cyril, Goda, Court, and Moat to do the hard work of taking out the Light Dragons and collecting the Goddess Keys. Back with Vu of the Light Dragon clan, the Guildmaster is thanking the heroes for saving Prima. Gobi decides to continue traveling with everyone and is also given a sphere so that he can take on a big fish form too. With this new power, the heroes make their way through the water to where the Dark Dragons are. However, during their long travel, they take a break on the surface, arriving in the town of Gust. They learn that when the north wind blows, there are some civilians who start to lose their minds. A citizen named Tina notes that her friend Nikolai went to investigate but hasn't returned. Rue and the others decide that they'll investigate too. In the north, they find a strange flower, and when Rue touches it, he becomes loopy himself. They don't linger on that though, as they find a nearby facility. They make their way through the facility that is guarded by very powerful enemies. As they are traveling, however, Court appears. He uses an experimental potion to shrink down the heroes. Unable to follow Court in their new size, the heroes find a mouse hole to go through. Naturally, on the other side, they find a nest of mice. There seems to be some trouble brewing for them. Rue and the others go forward to save the mice's food supply from some killer roach. Despite the name, as one would expect of bugs, they were very easy for the heroes to squash. With their food safe, the mice provide an antidote for the heroes' current condition. Upon exiting the area, Rue and the others return to their normal size and can now chase after Court. When they catch up with the Dark Dragon, Court sends his monster to fight. While Ruga X puts up a fair fight, Rue's group is able to fell the beast. When it is defeated though, Ruga X changes back to its true form, the missing Nikolai. Nina tries to heal him, but the battle was too rough and Nikolai isn't recovering. At Blue's instructions, the heroes carry him back to Gust. Tina is very much not happy, lashing out at the heroes for Nikolai's current state. Blue explains that she can heal him, but she'll need the oil of a frog. Under her demand, the heroes leave her to find the frog oil. Believing that the frog cave is nearby, they investigate the cave next to Gust. There they find a giant fly trying to eat a man's lunch. While they defeat the giant fly, they do not find any frogs there. Searching some more, they eventually find the real frog cave. The frogs agree to give the heroes their oil in exchange for the giant fly. Since the heroes obviously have no need for this giant fly, Rue agrees to the trade. Now with oil in hand, Rue's group returns to Gust. They provide Blue with the oil and she is able to bring Nikolai back. When Nikolai wakes up, he explains that the flower Rue found is the source of the madness. The heroes need to destroy the flower before its seed spreads to drive the world into the same madness that's seen in Gust. Blue decides to stay and watch over Nikolai's recovery while Rue and the others go destroy the flower. Rue and the others arrive at the flower in the presence of Court. Court mocks the heroes before sticking the flower on them. As one would expect of a giant plant, the Flower X stands no chance against Rue's party. With his monster flower destroyed, Court flees. Rue's team heads back to Gust to check on everyone. Indeed, all the townsfolk have returned to normal. However, Nikolai has turned back into a monster. With no choice, Rue and the others fight against him. Just like the first time, the heroes are able to defeat Nikolai's monster form. Blue takes the opportunity to use her magic to turn Nikolai back to normal. As thanks, Nikolai heads out to fix the bridge to Scand. When the heroes go to meet up with Nikolai at the bridge, they see the man has been knocked out. Turns out he was attacked by Court, and now Court's attention is turned to Rue and the others. Court transforms into a horned toad. In the horned toad form, Court is able to tank a lot of attacks, but isn't able to deal back that damage. Eventually, Rue and the others are able to wear the man down, defeating him for good. Now that Court has been beaten and the bridge has been fixed, the heroes continue on their way to Scand. However, during their travel, they come across a mole person. Curious, Rue and the others follow it to Grammore. In Grammore, they learn that a person named Mogu fought against the Dark Dragons, but ultimately lost. Mogu is now trapped in his own dreams, but if the monster keeping him there is defeated, then he'll wake up. However, in order to do so, the heroes will have to find a way to travel into Mogu's dreams. There is a device in Toonland that allows such travel, so the heroes head off to Toonland. In Toonland, they learn that their princess has become enamored with Emperor Zog. She believes the Dark Dragons will give her eternal youth in exchange for the Time Key. Of course, they cannot allow the Dark Dragons to get their hands on the 5th Goddess Key, so the heroes work with a royal advisor to try to stop this. Furthermore, the advisor promises to give the heroes the bolster that allow them to travel into others' dreams. Unfortunately, Ryu is unable to sway the princess. Since the advisor doesn't want the dark dragons to get the time key either, she reveals that the passcode to open the royal treasury is tattooed on the princess's back. Learning this under the cover of night, Ryu and the others go to spy on the princess. With this password, Ryu tries to get into the treasury, however enters it wrong. Before he can try again, the princess and her guards show up to stop the heroes. Rather than engage the guards though, Blue instead attacks the locked doors. Everyone races to the time key, but when the dust clears, it is Cyril of the Dark Dragons who claims the key. Cyril refuses to uphold the Dark Dragon's side of the bargain, and Blue is too distracted by the princess to get the key. Cyril is able to flee while the heroes and princess fight amongst themselves. After all the fighting, the royal advisor allows the heroes to take the bolster. With bolster in hand, the party returns to Grammore. Using the bolster, the heroes are able to enter Mogu's dreams. Ryu and the others trek through Mogu's dream to find Mothro. The heroes do their best, but without Mogu's lost courage, Mothro cannot be damaged. As a result, the heroes are defeated. When they wake up within the dream, they're told that Mogu's courage has been located. They head off to the cave to face Courage. Mogu's courage is given a pep talk by the dream version of Mogu's sister, Anne, as well as the rest of Mogu's emotions. All the aspects of Mogu merge together to become whole. With that, the completed Mogu joins the party, and they head off to fight Mothra once more. When they finally reach the top of the tower where Mothra waits, the monster mocks that battle operate differently in dreams. While the heroes didn't have a clue as to how much damage Mothra was taking, the nightmare ended up being more annoying than anything else. With Mothra now defeated, Mogu is able to wake up. As such, Ryu and the others are ejected from the dream. When Mogu awakens, he requests to continue with Ryu. Of course, our protagonist welcomes the mole into the party. Now that the group consists of a hero from the Light Dragon clan and 7 other heroes, just like the heroes of legend, they continue on their way to Scand. On the way, they end up in a town called Spring. Despite its name, Spring has been completely frozen over. The heroes learn that there is a passage to Scand behind the waterfall in Spring. However, since it has been frozen over, it is not possible to get past it. Turns out that there is a nearby tower called Spire that has a device that controls weather. Obviously needing the snow to thaw, Ryu and the others head off to Spire. Spire is indeed a tall and unique tower. At the top, they find the device as well as a nearby post that assumingly contains another goddess key and a spirit guarding it. This turns out not to be the case. As it turns out, Moat of the Dark Dragon's army had beat the heroes to the Sky Key. Moat then uses his magic to trap everyone in the world of dreams. Ryu, his companions, and everyone else Moat trapped are unable to escape without defeating the evil mole. They learn that Moat's conscience is also in the world of dreams, and they should be able to find out where the real Moat is from his conscience. Exploring the world of dreams, the heroes come upon an odd cave. There, they meet with Moat's conscience. The conscience opens a path for Ryu and the others to continue, asking for the heroes to stop Moat. With that, the heroes continue on their way, traversing through the confusing tower in the dreams. Ryu and the others are able to find and confront Moat within the dreams. As before, battles in the world of dreams operate differently than in the real world. The heroes have difficulty identifying Moat and therefore hardly do any damage. Luckily, Moat's conscience arrives in the nick of time, using its limited power to allow the heroes to hurt Moat. While the battle is still difficult, Ryu's party is able to come out victorious. Afterwards, they are returned to Spire and now in possession of the Sky Key. Using this goddess key, Ryu works the machine in the Spire to change the weather, stopping the freezing snow. With everything in Spring back to normal, Ryu and the others are able to walk through the waterfall. Past the hidden cave, the heroes find themselves in the village of Carmen, but something rather strange has happened. Everyone is frozen. The one person who isn't was coincidentally traveling and just returned home, commenting that it's as if everyone is frozen in time. Realizing that it may have something to do with the stolen time key, the heroes head off to the Tower of Talk to investigate. After making their way through the very confusing layout, they find Cyril at the top. She mocks the heroes, boasting her power over time itself thanks to the time key. She shows them a vision of Carmen. To Cyril's surprise though, the one person moving around is apparently someone she knows. His name is Alan. When time and space distorts, Ryu ends up separated from everyone else. Believing that his friends have returned to Carmen, or at least will rendezvous in the village, Ryu heads that way too. His hunch is correct as Ryu reunites with everyone in Carmen. There, they meet with Alan. Alan explains that he and Cyril are childhood friends, and he believes Cyril would never join the Dark Dragons. Thus, Alan heads off to Talk to confront his dear friend. Naturally, the heroes go with them. Once again, Ryu and the others make their way through Talk. When they reach Cyril, they see Alan trying to appeal to her, but Unfortunately, he fails. As a result, Cyril attacks, injuring Alan. Ryu and the others are able to fight back though. Perhaps though, Alan did have an effect on Cyril, as she was very easy for Ryu and the others to conquer. Even in defeat, Cyril continues to use the time key, now rapidly aging the frozen villagers. In order to stop her from doing so, the heroes have no choice but to put down their weapons. Cyril distorts time once again, sending everyone out of talk. Ryu and Nina, however, end up at the south gate with Cyril. As expected, Cyril locks Ryu and Nina out. With no choice, the duo returns to Carmen to regroup with the remaining heroes and Alan. Alan blames himself for Cyril's current state. He explains that the village cast her out purely because she isn't a human. Even though Cyril was, and still is, dear to him, at the time he didn't even try to protect her, nor would he leave without her. Nina thinks, with how much Alan still cares about Cyril, it's worth a try to attempt to talk her out of it again. Alan tells him that Cyril would probably remember the fruit from the holiday tree where they grew up, so the heroes head out to collect said fruit. After finding the tree, Ox knocks the fruit down. When they bring the fruit to the south gate, Cyril recognizes the scent. She opens the gate. When the heroes come face to face with Cyril, she tells them that if they're here for a fight, she'd just let them win. Alan was right. The kind girl he knew was still in there, and that girl gives the heroes the time key. Suddenly, Goda crashes in. He declares Cyril a traitor and attacks. However, he isn't able to get close to the heroes as Cyril jumps in to protect them. She pleads for Ryu to return Carmen to normal while she fights against Goda. Respecting her wishes, the heroes flee the south gate. Just when they get out, they see the injured Alan coming in. He's determined to protect Cyril and charges in without thinking. That's when the structure collapses. Cyril and Alan are no more. Blue points out that Cyril wanted them to bring time back to normal, so the heroes return to talk once more. In talk, Nina uses the key to return Carmen to normal, but when she does so, another space-time distortion occurs. Nina is sent flying through it. Ryu and the others try to chase after her. The heroes wake up in Toonland. They find Nina in one of the houses. She had been sent to the past and has been living in Toonland with no memories of said past. No matter who talks to her, she won't respond. The heroes then learn of a famous doctor in Carmen from a robed man. When they return to Carmen to meet with the doctor, he says that fixing Nina's amnesia will be easy. He just needs the ingredients to make the tonic. Ryu and the others go out to hunt for these ingredients. As they are about to leave Carmen though, they see the robed man who gives them a pass. For what reason or where to use it is left a mystery though. They don't have time to worry about it anyway. They need those ingredients after all. While the heroes are hunting, they pass by the ruins of the south gate. Perhaps due to the effects of the time key, they see images of Cyril and Alan as children. The bittersweet moment aside, they successfully find everything they need. With that, the doctor is able to make the medicine for Nina. Back in Toonland, Nina is able to remember everything thanks to the tonic, though, as a result, she forgets that she ever forgot, not to mention whatever life she lived during her time in Toonland. Nina rejoins the party and they fly off to Scand. In Scand, they learn that the elevator to the top of the tower where Zog is out of order. They learn that someone in Spring had once climbed this tower. Going to see the man in Spring, he explains how he tried to get up and still has the broken parts from the elevator. Taking the broken parts, the heroes head to Gant to get them fixed. The chief is able to fix them and gives Ryu the parts. Returning to Scand, Ryu and the others use the parts to fix the elevator. At the top of the tower though, they come across the robed figure again. He tells the heroes that there is a legendary weapon that can destroy any dragon in Toonland called the Dragon Heart. Being turned away, the heroes head off to Toonland. They meet a citizen who has never heard of a weapon called the Dragon Heart, but does know a song by that name. When she plays it though, Ryu takes significant damage. She somehow wraps up the song in a bottle and gives it to Ryu to use against the Dark Dragons. Returning to Scand once again, the heroes are finally able to make it all the way to Emperor Zog. Zog tries to get Ryu to see things his way, but it of course falls on deaf ears. Seeing himself as the one deserving to rule the world, Zog transforms into his dragon form to fight the heroes. While Zog is a difficult opponent, even as a dragon, he doesn't stand a chance against the heroes. As Zog dies, he attempts to put his dream of the dragon rule upon Ryu, but the hero of course will not follow Zog's will. That being said, when Zog is no more, the tower itself collapses as a result of the battle, sending all the heroes falling. The heroes wake up in Sarah's presence. Ryu has finally found his sister. They have a tearful reunion. Sarah notes though that they need to destroy the goddess keys. Ryu hands his sister the keys, but it was a trick. Sarah had been working with General Jade. With Zog out of the way, Jade plans to use the goddess keys to reawaken Tyr. He leaves with Sarah to Agua. The heroes try to find their way out of their prison. Luckily, a mole person digs in and rescues them. Now free, with haste, the heroes go to Agua. They quickly retraverse first the floating tower, but despite their haste, they were still too late. Jade has already freed Tyr. He retreats, and the heroes follow after. Chasing Jade, the heroes end up coming across Sarah. Sarah explains that Jade had placed a spell on her. She is trying to fight back against it, so lets the heroes through, though she does tell them she has one last thing to say. When Rue tries to talk to her, Sarah transforms into her dragon form and attacks. There's no choice but to fight back. Sarah puts up a good fight too, but ultimately, the heroes come out on top. They were forced to kill Sarah. After the tearful farewell, the heroes go after Jade. Despite everything, when they do reach Jade, they learn that he is still too strong for them. Jade easily defeats the hero. It is 3 days later that Rue finally wakes up. Turns out, despite her death, Sarah was able to bring the injured heroes to Drogon. Karn rushes in and explains the situation. Jade has resurrected the obelisk, which is currently enscanned. With their strong resolve, the heroes head out to save the world. Along their way, though, they end up having to play messenger between these old weapon lovers, eventually receiving the iron claws for them, and the digging master in Grimoire teaches Mogu how to use it. Anyhow, when they reach the obelisk, Mogu uses the iron claw to dig into the structure. After exploring, they come across Goda. This last general states he will not allow the heroes to reach Jade. Rue and the others keep going though. When they come across Goda again, they of course engage in battle. Despite his words though, Goda didn't really put up any kind of challenge, as Rue and the others were easily able to defeat him. With that obstacle out of the way, the heroes continue on. At the end of the obelisk, they come across Jade. The new self-proclaimed emperor offers the heroes to join him, but Rue declines and readies for combat. Jade transforms to fight. The battle was very difficult. Eventually though, the heroes come out on top. However, when defeated, Jade just laughs in Rue's face. Jade uses the last of his strength to send the heroes falling through the obelisk straight to Tyr, the goddess of destruction. When the heroes meet with Tyr though, she is just a little girl. She even heals them after the tough battle against Jade. Even so, Rue takes out his sword. The heroes attack, but Tyr doesn't fight back. After mercilessly attacking her, the heroes disengage. Tyr asks to be friends, and Rue agrees. However, they are interrupted by Sarah's ghost. Sarah urges Rue not to be fooled and that Tyr is too dangerous to be left alive. At Sarah's words, Rue attacks once again. This time though, Tyr fights back. Tyr is a very strong opponent and proves to be a real threat to the heroes. After a long battle, she is finally defeated. With Tyr's defeat, the world is saved, though the work of Rue and the others are not quite done, as they now work to restore the world and how it was before the Dark Dragons initiated the war. So this story, perhaps due to the age of the game and the initial setup, I was expecting your stereotypical rescue the damsel in distress scenario. And the first thing I said when I beat the game was, are we sure Sarah's not the bad guy? I was shocked that after 20-30-ish hours of searching for her, when we find the damsel in distress, we kill her. And I felt really bad too. But after the stunt she pulled at the end, I didn't really feel that bad anymore. Just as Tyr said, she literally did nothing, let alone something wrong. Even in the legend, she just did what others asked. She granted their wishes. Sure, Tyr enjoyed watching the chaos that resulted from the wishes being cast, but she never actually threatened anyone. The legend said that she was sealed so that no one could take advantage of her powers anymore. Not that she was the one directly destroying the world. Heck, she even healed the heroes! If Tyr was truly evil, then wouldn't she have used this offer of goodwill as a trick to attack? Instead, we attack her, and she doesn't even fight back! Only questions what she did wrong. She only started fighting back when Sarah intervened, calling Tyr evil. Why couldn't we just adopt her as a little sister or something? Offer her the friendship she sought? Who is Sarah to determine if those pleas were truth or not? Am I naive for believing in Tyr? I saw the true ending online. I know she turns into a giant dragon, but so does everyone else in the dragon clans, including Rue and Sarah. I know it may not look too much like a dragon, but neither did Jade's dragon form. I doubt it was intentional, but the ending made me feel bad for defeating the alleged big threat. I know the game was released in 1993, but I want my friendship ending, dang it! In the bad ending, where it is revealed that Tyr survived and she's now angry about what happened, I'm in her court. I'd be upset too if I tried to offer friendship to someone and in exchange they ran me through with a sword. If I had to put myself in the writer's shoes, I'd assume that what they were trying to go for was Sarah to be correct and that Tyr was just using her appearance to trick the heroes. If that interpretation is the one they wanted, this isn't how I would have written it. If this was the proposed interpretation, then Tyr should have been the one to attack first, not the other way around. Rue attacks first. When Tyr tries to be a friend and then Sarah's ghost appears, Tyr does not attack Sarah and only defends against the heroes because, again, Rue attacks. Tyr only makes the first move in the third phase, only accessed in the true ending. If Tyr was supposed to be making a ruse, she should have been the one to attack first. She should have tried to destroy the ghost that was telling on her. She didn't do either of those things. This means you can interpret the third phase as Tyr making the first move to avoid being caught off guard again, threatening to destroy everything due to this bad interaction with these mortals. And you can't even say it was just one bad interaction that she's blowing out of proportion because remember, mortals sealed her away for who knows how long enough that her story became nothing but a myth. It's true that she does not have any right to commit a genocide, but she does have the right to be upset. I wouldn't be surprised if in later games Tyr returned but was depicted as being very evil, so evil that there is no doubt in the player to fight her. Even though the game insinuates through its legend that Tyr is a horrible goddess of destruction, when actually meeting her, the writing feels like it's giving the message of the legend was wrong. The actual event happened probably thousands of years ago, so it isn't out of the realm of possibility that parts of it were mistold as it was passed down, like a huge game of telephone. But with that out of my system, let's backtrack to the main action of the story. The way the story was structured felt like a 90s anime, appropriate for a 90s video game. While there was the overarching plot, each of the arcs occurring in said plot were very self-contained. Up until Gust, where the 4 generals were introduced, other than a new party member joining, the events felt largely inconsequential to the overall battle against the Dark Dragons. I feel like it was a waste to introduce those elite members so late in the story. I suppose you could argue that the writers were trying to subvert tropes by not having central villains to block the heroes, but keeping these villains a secret until the last quarter of the game feels wrong. If they had been introduced far earlier, even if the story was structured the same way, making it so that they do not appear physically until the end, the knowledge of there being threats equal to Zog and Jade would have given them a much stronger impact. Take Cyril for example. Her betrayal of the Dark Dragons would have felt far more impactful if we had seen, or at least heard of, her evil actions before she stole the time key and basically noped out of the story until the penultimate arc. To be fair, due to when this game was released, I was expecting one-note villains and honestly looking forward to fighting them, but I do know that's not everyone's cup of tea. And don't misunderstand me, I do like the story structure and did enjoy the narrative. Perhaps it's just because of the tropes seen in later media that make the flaws of this story stand out. Like, what was the point of the Dragon Heart? Jade stops the player from entering the tower without getting it, so it must be important. But even in the true ending, it is not necessary. With how Rue was nearly killed when the tune was first played, the expectation is that Rue will use the Dragon Heart as a last resort weapon, resulting in both his death and Tyr's death. Maybe the power of friendship would bring Rue back for that happy ending? It's just weird that it's necessary to get, but then is never used. Another story thing that bothered me were the fetch quests. For the frog oil, the tonic ingredients, and the iron claw, I actually needed to use a guide to find them. The iron claw especially, because when I got to the obelisk the first time, I didn't even know I needed a special item to get in because the game never told me. Apparently there's another type of fetch quest that the player isn't even told about, which is to get a bunch of dragon equipment so Rue can eventually learn the ultimate dragon transformation. The guide I looked at was saying it was optional, but technically it wasn't, since it's necessary to get the true ending. In some games, I don't mind backtracking for fetch quests, but when the game doesn't telegraph what you need or that you even need it in the first place, it just bogs down the experience. I was all set to enter the obelisk and got very upset when the game wouldn't let me in without a solid explanation as to why. However, with how much they slowed down the pacing, I imagine that those were in there to rack up those repeat rental costs. But enough negative. Like I said, I did like the overall story and how it was structured. The twist on the damsel in distress narrative really caught me off guard. Spending like 25 hours searching for the damsel just for the hero to be directly responsible in her death is a twist I never would have seen coming. Since I had to be the one to put her down after all the trials to get to her, I really felt the sadness and grief in all of the heroes, despite how we didn't really know her. I actually connected with almost all of the good guys, including the NPCs. With the exception of Gobi, I adored all of the party members. My favorite party members were Nina and Karn. To be fair, since Nina is the first party member, she is rather active in the story. Regardless, the princess did feel relatable. I like how brave she was in her solo section, going to such lengths to save her father. Appropriately for a princess, Nina was generally able to keep a level head and take charge when needed, such as when she volunteered to use the time key. Then with Karn, he was pretty cool. His introduction was pretty funny too, just lazing around in prison voluntarily, as he can get out whenever he liked. But the bed must have just been that comfy. He was a thief with a heart of gold and a real friend to you and the others. One of which is Gobi. Like I said, I didn't really like Gobi because of how greedy he was. To quote my brother, Gobi will be the hero that saves the world, but not out of the goodness of his heart. That being said, the fact that he wanted to stay with you and the others due to their friendship rather than for monetary gain does show good character, I suppose. An actual good character was Bo. Granted, after Karn joined the story, it sometimes felt like Bo was pushed to the side. He was still a stand-up guy though. Admittedly, it is a little strange that they show Bo's backstory in the opening video, that you need to wait over a minute on the title screen to see. Maybe it's because he was sidelined a little and didn't even get his own story arc that Bo felt like a stoic person. When you have so many party characters in one of these old school games, some characters are bound to get less development than others. Ox is another example of that. We know he is a brave family man, nearly dying just to get help to save his people, which includes his wife and unborn child. I really respect him for that. Other than that though, we don't really know much about him. Despite that, I think Ox is a very good guy. A character we did learn quite a bit about is Mogu. Mogu's bravery may have been locked away when we first met him, however, that didn't negate it. You could even argue that this mole is very brave if his bravery needed to be locked away, that he was considered enough of a threat that Moat felt he needed to trap Mogu in his dreams. Even though he did need that little push, Mogu's strength of heart made him a very enjoyable character. Last of the party members, we have Blue, who the Breath of Fire wiki says is actually named Deus in later installment, but this game calls her Blue, so that's what I'll do as well. The strongest sorceress certainly lives up to her reputation in battle, and is an interesting character. Due to her strength and age, I do find it understandable why she is written like an almighty character. However, she still cares for others, and makes mistakes herself. Blue does take unnecessary jabs at Nina sometimes, though it is always played up for comedic relief. It isn't very nice comedic relief, as I don't believe Nina ever deserved any of it, but it is what it is. Putting that aside, I did enjoy Blue's character for the most part, and I appreciate that her strength in battle really represented and justified her legendary status. The nameless NPCs were also great. They did a good job telegraphing to the player as to where to go, while also having stories of their own. An early example is the other members of the Light Dragon clan. The expectation for this type of game is that the early villagers would be terrified and waiting for a main character to save the day, but the Light Dragon clan is built different. They rightly point out that they're descendants from dragons too. Even though the Light Dragon clan lost their powers, they still have the very same potential. The old woman is the one who forces them to stop. It was surprising and refreshing to see such dedicated and proud starting town villagers, and the townsfolk of later areas all have their own distinctions, really elevating the town's individuality and overall world building. The environmental storytelling is also very good. Ordinarily, I would speak about this in the presentation section. However, as the environment itself plays a part in the storytelling, there are some spoilers that I must praise here. The environment truly changes, showing the passage of time, making the world feel fully alive. When I randomly decided to return to Camlin after dealing with the situation in Bleak, the town was not just repaired, but thriving. The townsfolk didn't just sit on their hands doing nothing, waiting for the hero to save the world, but went and lived their lives. Then there is the initial visit to Tumen. The older amnesiac Nina is there the entire time, showing the time paradox that the time key will cause. However, due to the system limitations, I thought it was just another member of the Wing Clan who was just there on a visit or something. The fact that it was part of the story was impressive to me. Honestly, another thing that was impressive was the gameplay. As expected from an old school game, there is no tutorial, as you are expected to read the manual. As per tradition, I only read the page on the manual that explained how to save, which you do at save points, being these dragon statues found at the various shrines in the towns and cities, just by the way. Anyhow, even if you do not read the manual, it is pretty straightforward what the symbols in the battle screen mean. In combat, there are several different actions one can take. take. Thus, the game will take you to a menu with 6 options. The run symbol is pretty self-explanatory, just running away from battle. The ST button shows the current status of the active party, which of course doesn't take a turn. The arrows change the position of the active party members. What's nice is that changing the position of your party members doesn't even take up a turn. If a party member is in the front line, then they will do more physical damage but also take more damage. The back line is the opposite of that. For that reason, I tended to keep magic users and those with weaker defense in the back. Even after playing the game for about 30 hours, I'm not sure what the point of moving characters left and right is, so I won't pretend to explain that one. Then the sword symbol takes you to a separate actions menu where you select what action you want the character to take. The new sword is to attack physically, the shield is to do damage, the staff is magic, and the bag holds items. The last option in the original menu is AB, which stands for auto battle. If you tell the game to do an auto battle, then the party will just attack on its own. They will only use physical moves so that they do not use up any resources without the player's permission. I didn't think I'd like the auto battle feature because I like being in control of the battle, but it's actually rather convenient. If I ended up in an area where I was over-leveled, or if I needed to grind, or if my calculations concluded that just attacking the enemies physically would result in victory, then I could use auto battle so I wouldn't need to go through all the menus. Can even back out of it at any time, which means if I ever realized in battle things weren't going as expected, or if I pressed it by accident, I could just take control back. I would like to note though, even when I believe physical attacks alone would do the trick, the computer wouldn't always select the targets to attack that I wanted it to. In these instances, I did need to control the battle myself, even if it was mostly just pressing one button. In battle, when using magic or an item, there will be quite a list of options. For magic, there are offensive spells, some that attack just one enemy or multiple. There are spells for buffing up the party or weakening the enemies, and there are healing spells. When using a spell that heals health or a status condition, it will always go first. However, when using a healing item, it will be used based on the character's speed, just like the rest of the items. Some of them do damage and some of them heal. As an example, acorns are used to heal the ability points needed to perform a magic spell. Now there is a magic that is unique to the protagonist. As a member of the Light Dragon clan, Ryu can transform into a dragon. When he does, he gets a boost in his stats, and what are normally physical attacks will do magic damage without using any of Ryu's ability points. Just the transformation itself costs the points. There are some scenarios where you may prefer Ryu to do physical damage, so you can transform back as well. Transforming back doesn't use up any points either, but it does take a full turn. I felt like this combat was very fair and balanced. I think it may be partially thanks to the auto battle function that I never got tired of the battles. After all, I could let the computer take over if it ever felt like it was getting repetitive. One gets into battles via random encounters. I know not everyone likes random encounters, but I've always enjoyed them, and here is no different. As I just explained, I enjoyed the combat mechanics. Outside of battle though, there is a rather complicated menu to go through. Most of what is here is the same as the first screen of the in-combat menu. Additionally, there is the helmet symbol where you can change the equipment of the characters, such as the armor and weapons. The OP button is to bring up the settings menu, and the N button is to exit out of the menu. There are a couple of weird things about this menu though. When first starting the game, you need to set what buttons the menu will be activated with. I believe the point is to make shortcuts to certain menu options so you don't have to navigate the menu screen every time. However, if you don't set the main menu button in the first place, then to navigate to the other options, you'll need to back out of your shortcut to the main menu, and that sounds like a hassle in itself. I just find it really weird that you can go through the game without having a proper menu button by player choice, especially if you don't remember what you set the shortcuts to. The other weird thing is that while in the menu, you can look up what the armor, weapons, and items do, but you cannot with the spells. In order to learn what the spells did, I had to look them up online, so it wasn't until I was in the last quarter of the game that I learned that not only did I have a teleport spell for traveling, I had 2 characters who knew that spell. I don't understand why the developers allowed the player to see what their items, armor, and weapons do but not their spells, especially since some of these spells can be used outside of battle. Last thing you can do in the menu is switch up your party. Using the arrows in the menu, you can select who will be in the party and who won't be. Conveniently, even if a party member isn't in the active party, they will still gain experience points. This way, you don't need to worry about anyone falling behind. You can even change who the party leader is. There will be some instances, in fact, where you need someone else to be the party leader. This would either be for story reasons or because a specific skill is needed. Some party members have a special skill that can be used outside of battle. Early party member Bo, for example, can walk through trees and hunt the animals in the overworld. The hunted animals will turn into healing items for the party. These special abilities allow for great exploration of the world. As they are tied to the party members, the game is able to control what areas the player has access to based on where they are in the story. It is debatable though if the game makes it obvious what each party member does. Taking Bo as an example again, the game does straight up tell you that Bo can travel through trees, however it does not tell you about his hunting ability. I learned about it by accident when I was fumbling to get to my menu. That being said, I do think the game does an overall good job in telling the player what party member does what. Speaking of the party, the game is really built around having one. The sections where you can only play as a single character are extremely difficult. Back when Drew was by himself at the beginning of the game, boss battles basically became a game of out-healing the enemy. Winning just by timing when to use a healing item wasn't very fun and certainly unsatisfying. Getting a new party member wasn't just exciting due to being able to meet someone new, not just because there are new abilities to discover and play with, but to actually be able to make strategies to counter bosses. There is something neat that is unique to boss encounters. Every enemy has a health bar so that the player can see the progress and strategize accordingly, and while this is true with bosses, every boss has a secret second health bar. This means that essentially every boss has at least 2 phases. Now you can decide if you think that this next detail is fortunate or unfortunate, but these bosses already do have huge health bars and are very tanky beasts. When it comes to fighting bosses, I found I had to be ready for the long haul because my heroes were barely doing any damage. Nevertheless, I think it's pretty neat that every single boss has at least 2 phases. Intimidating for sure when first starting out, but neat. What else is neat? The presentation. There's not too much I can say about the pixel art other than it's cute. It's cool that when in the overworld, towns, and dungeons, your entire active party will be walking behind you. It's also convenient that when someone is suffering from a status condition, they'll appear as a different color, as a reminder that you still need to heal them. There are, of course, system limitations in place, so there's only so much the team could have done. Given what they had, though, I'd say it succeeded. Not excelled, but succeeded. The battle animations were rather fluid for its time, and I could feel the weight of some of the moves. The magic was especially fun to see, each one having its own unique animation where even if sometimes I couldn't tell what a spell's name meant, when seeing it in action, the animation alone told me how powerful the move was, even before the enemy health bar was affected. How cutscenes were handled were rather tame, again, due to the system limitations. The most impressive cutscene would be the one achieved when getting the true ending, which makes sense as it makes it more special. It was neat though how in boss battles they were able to get complex designs in play. However, whether those complex designs hit is up to individual taste. There were some character designs that I liked more than others. Looking at the official artwork doesn't really help in that regard either. I mean, those who are descendants of the dragons have the ability to transform into a dragon, hence Rue's ability. This applies not just to the Light Dragon clan, but also the natural clan members of the Dark Dragon clan, which means by this game's logic, this is a dragon. Really playing it loose about the definition of a dragon. Nevertheless, it is neat that they were able to convey such a design in this old pixelated game, as much as I question some of these designs. For the most part, I do like the generic enemy designs. Admittedly though, there really wasn't any that stood out. I think that is partly because of the age of this game. Similar enemy concepts, not exact same design obviously, have appeared in games since the 1993 release. Therefore, as a result of the age, a lot of enemy designs just feel normal. As I demonstrated before though, the bosses all had very memorable designs, for better or for worse. The sad thing is, even though I love the character designs for most of the main party members, they also are a victim of time as they also feel common for a medieval fantasy world. To be fair though, that is one of the things that drew me to the game in the first place. I was looking for that classic medieval fantasy adventure. The environments 100% conveyed that. The castles and towns all telegraphed exactly what to expect in any given location story-wise. It wasn't just environment either. The NPCs in these towns also in general reflected what was to come. Between the environment and characters, it was simple to tell the culture of each given area without speaking to anyone first. What's more is that the environment is dynamic, changing over time. Time actually passes. The sun will rise and set, and both the in and out of battle lighting and backgrounds will reflect that. There are even some details that can only be seen at certain times of day. This is really impressive for the time in my opinion. It's also very immersive as it physically shows how long this journey takes. Now we come to the part that's always difficult for me to judge, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is fine. There were some songs I liked and some I disliked. Either way, I did have to look up the soundtrack after the fact because I forgot what the music sounded like. However, when I did put on one of the songs I liked, the memories of this game flooded in as the music supports the environment or situation it is played in very well. The music is so unified with the locations and scenarios that it's probably a compliment in a weird way that it doesn't stand out any more than another element of this presentation. In conclusion, I like Breath of Fire. I can see how it can rival big names in the turn-based RPG genre, and it's a wonder why Capcom basically abandoned this series. To be fair, I am assuming the rest of the franchise is just as good, if not better, than the one that started it all. The combat in general was really fun. I liked creating strategies with what the game was giving me. Furthermore, with how the characters leveled up, even when outside of the active party, I felt very encouraged to play with every character. Not feeling pressured to stick with just the highest level party members allowed me to feel free to mix and match party dynamics however I felt like at the time. The game was also pretty good at telling the player about how certain items or equipment would affect them. It didn't say anything about the spells, but could figure it out based on the battle animations and the results in combat. In general, the game was good at communicating with the player what it wanted, but good is not great. There were story moments and objectives that could have been conveyed more clearly, and like I said, it'd be nice if there was a description for what the spells do in the game. Nevertheless, I appreciate the communication the game does provide. This extends to the NPCs who clearly telegraph where to go next to advance the story. The characters and story direction is, in general, portrayed as one would expect. A classic medieval fantasy story as one would expect of a game in this genre that was released in the 90s. Even recognizing the tropes that come with these types of stories, there were a couple of twists that really caught me off guard. Like, I am impressed with how well they were pulled off, though admittedly, the ending twist may have been unintentional on the part of the writers. There was one story element that confuses me as to why it was even included in the first place, as I talked about in more detail in the story review segment. Even though there are some story beats I would have done differently via the power of hindsight, I still believe that this is a very solid story for the genre. The presentation is solid too, even incorporating it into the storytelling. It's honestly pretty impressive what they were able to achieve visually with the system limitations put onto them. For all these reasons, I like Breath of Fire. Honestly, I may look into playing the rest of the series. That's how enjoyable I found this game. Will I review all of them? Don't know. What I do know is that I hope Capcom will revisit this series in the future. I'd love to play a prequel depicting the hero of the original legend or a continuation of this story. Either way, I hope the future of this franchise is bright.